Face the State will not be seen today in order to bring you the following special program, A Conversation with Sammy Davis Jr. Here is Channel 3's Pat Sheehan.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our special program today with Sammy Davis Jr., one of the great showmen of our times, one of the world citizens, we can say, after this many years in show business and as a humanitarian on behalf of so many causes around the world. But he's also a man who's been deeply troubled over several years, over a good number of years while he's been out on the road, a fellow who has run into problems with drinking and drugs, and who's now beaten that and has a message for an awful lot of other people. Sam, tell us, when you're on top of the world, as you've been for so many years in your profession, how do you get sucked into the kind of problems you had?
I don't know. I think it becomes a lifestyle. It has nothing to do with evil influences. I think it's just a lifestyle that you get yourself involved in. And it seems attractive at the time. You know, it seems like, well, I think the real thing, Pat, is nobody thinks it's going to happen to them. The guy says, hey, man, I can drink all day. I never fall down, you know. So I can take a hit. Doesn't matter to me, you know. And suddenly, before you know it, the drink or that whatever the drug abuse you're doing, whatever the alcohol abuse, it's all drugs anyway, it suddenly is controlling you. You're not controlling it. And I was never heavily involved in either one, but it just became habit forming. And over a period of time, you learn to lean on it as a crutch. I remember the days that if I didn't have a glass of wine before or after the show, immediately before going on stage, a little taste for the face, all of those marvelous little things that I used to say on stage, which I thought were terribly clever. I couldn't walk out on the stage. I could walk out, but psychologically I was broken in 17 different pieces. And I've learned in the last 2 years or so that those are all, that's so false. It's like a Hollywood set. You see the big mansion, you see Gone with the Wind's big mansion, you know, and behind it is nothing but just a bunch of
What
props.
have you done, though, by being out on stage and, in effect, glamorizing the drinking yourself?
Oh, I did it all. I did all those jokes I just got through saying. I did all the jokes about my heart doesn't start until I have 2 drinks, because that was the 60s, that was the 50s, and that was the glamour period. And with the guys that were the swingers, Sinatra, myself, and we've all paid for it. I was fortunate enough to get another chance, you know, and most guys, young and old, don't get another chance. And when you're my age, when you're pushing 60, and you get another chance and you can come back and not only get the chance to revitalize yourself mentally and morally, but you get a chance to revitalize yourself physically. And my liver, you know, I started to go on me, and the man said, that's it.
2 years ago, you were close to death, weren't you?
Yes.
Tell me about that. How did it all come down? How did it come on top of you when you realized the problems?
Cold, stone sober one night in my house. My wife was on the road for the city of Los Angeles. I was alone, save for the housekeeper. I ran a movie around about 9 o'clock in the house, came back from running the movie, the projectionist left, and I said, well, I guess I'll get, and I went and got a drink, just very casually. I went into the bedroom, put the drink down on the end, and like this table here, I said, well, and I turned the television on, which is over there, and I went like this and started to take my trousers off. And as a guy would do, you know how you hop on the foot like this? And I hopped like this, trying to get this leg out, and I fell like this and hit the corner of the table right here.
Yeah.
And I cracked my ribs. And I mean, I fell, bang. And now there's not a lot of meat on me to protect it. So, I laid there, man. It just knocked the wind out of me. And I lifted up my shirt, and it was a little thicker than this one, and I saw I had broken the skin. So I said, well, it's all right. I woke up the next morning. For a black person to have a black and blue mark this big, that's visible, that you can see, it turns purple, you know, and it was this big. So I knew something was wrong, but I said, oh, I'll be all right. I figured it'd go away. I took a hot bath and spent the next day. We were leaving that afternoon for Reno to work at Harrah's. I had to do a television special, then I was going to work at Harrah's, starting 3 days after this accident happened. I got up and to make a long story short, by the second day in Reno, I could not breathe. I was doing this because I had cracked my ribs and the breath was gone. Now, and incidentally at that time, my stomach was out to here. What I didn't realize, all the fluid, all of the bad fluid had backed up into my stomach and was doing this. I was puffing out. And everybody was saying, gee, you look great. You're no longer thin. But boy, you're putting on weight. Look at it, he's got a little stomach. And I was happy about it, you know. Boy, I didn't know that it was the beginning of the end for me. So my rib cage hurt me so bad, I said to Murphy Bennett, my manager, I said, I'm going to go, I said, I got to go to the doctor. He said, okay, let's go to medical center. So Murphy arranged it. I got in the cab, went to the medical center, and on the way to the medical center, I said to Murphy, I said, you know what I think I'm going to do? I said, I think I'm going to quit drinking for a few weeks. He said, well, if you feel like it, quit, you know. I said, yeah, I think I will. Never knowing that when I got up there, within 24 hours, the man would tell me, you got to stop or you're going to die. So I went, and when he looked at me, they examined me, they put me in the hospital, and within another 24 hours, I was in Cedars-Sinai. They gave me the plane, they flew me to Beverly Hills, and into Burbank, rather, put me into Cedars-Sinai, and there I stayed for 4 weeks. They lanced here and took all the fluid out,
right.
Drained all the fluid, and it was the only time that I knew that I was okay, because had the fluid been cloudy, that would have meant the end, and there would have been no return, but it was clear, thank the good Lord. And that gave me an awareness, man, that you just don't realize. You know, when the guy goes, oh, you know, and you go, oh, wait a minute.
I'm not sure I'm ready for this yet.
Yes, you know, and suddenly, and I've got no complaints, Pat, none whatsoever, personally, professionally, because I've gone further than I ever thought I'd go on a professional level. Personally, I have more friends, I've had a good life, my kids are taken care of, so if I go today, sitting here, I got no complaints. I can't say, oh, I never did that. I did it all, you know. So it was, to me, a shock. Then I took the time in the hospital to start to realize, what is with the liver? Because I had been warned a couple of times before, cut back, ease up, and I never paid that much attention to it. Then I started getting involved in it. And then I realized, thank God, by the Liver Institute, you know, when they came to me about it, I was aware of what they were talking about, and I wanted to become involved.
Okay, I'm going to break in right here. We're going to take a break. We'll be back. I want to hear about the National Liver Institute, your involvement in it in just a moment.
All right.
Stay with us, please. Back in June, down in New Jersey, you stood up with the governor, and you attached your name to the National Liver Institute.
Well, the College of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey honored me, and I mean that's an honor, to have your name attached to an institution of that importance. And they were doing liver research, and because a couple of members of the board knew what I had gone through and had read about it, they said, let's approach Sam to see if he would like to lend his name to it. I jumped at the opportunity because I thought, again, how many times, Pat, do you get a chance to do something that you know about and that you've been through, and you can say, hey, man, I'm talking to you on a one-to-one. I've been there. When I talk to young people about drugs or overindulgence of any kind, they look at me and they've either, if they're in the, you know, baby boomers, you know, they look at me and they say, yeah, I remember reading something about that, or yeah, he did do that. Or if they're teenagers, they go, yeah, my parents told me, man, he used to be a wildcat, you know, whatever. So he's done it all. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to agree with your particular point of view, but it does give you some credibility because you're surviving. And when to me, when I see what this thing has done to kids, you know, and they're still trying to find out why, you know, as I mentioned the other day at the press conference, hepatitis. You don't have to be a boozer to get hepatitis, you know. You don't have to be a boozer to have a liver problem. And most people consider any liver ailment, they consider it alcohol relatedly. So what happens is there's a whole bunch of falsehoods that you got to break down. Then, in the meantime, while that's being broken down, the guys who need to be the experimental things, the drugs that they're trying to do they cannot figure out, for instance, why one liver in a family will react one way and the same thing, like two kids 6 years old. And I met a lady who had 4 children. 2 of them have passed because of liver disease, and 2 are perfectly normal, and they cannot figure out why. These 2 kids, and they were staggered. Kid, normal.
Yeah,
First kid
okay.
went normal. Well,
Same genetics,
right.
different results.
And you just cannot figure it out. So thank God the brilliant men and the contributing scientists, doctors, they are trying to find out what happened and what goes on beside the normal liver functions and how we can make that function for you. And what's the difference between the guy who is the constant boozer, who starts out in the morning with the eye opener and goes all day and lives till he's 90 and has never had any liver problems? Why him? And then
Probably
the guy,
because he smokes heavily, too. Those
Of
are the
course,
people somehow that get through it, you know? You
and
never know.
suddenly here's a guy that takes just a cocktail, 2 a day, and he's got the worst problem in the world.
Yeah.
So these are the various things that we're trying to find out.
What's the star value, the name value of having you on there? You can raise money,
Yes.
and you can raise awareness, right?
Yes.
Will you be involved in public programs
Yes.
that are involved in
Trying to. I want to be.
Is this going to be your muscular dystrophy,
Yes,
as
that's
you
what-
said the other day with Jerry Lewis?
This is my baby. This is my baby because I know I'm emotionally involved. The credibility is there for me in terms of saying, hey, listen to me, I know what I'm talking about. And I think that it is time, I think I have the credibility both in terms of age and position in the business to use that celebrity in involving myself with something like this.
When we talk about the same celebrity status involvement in public issues, you've taken a lot of ribbing over the years, I know, for the big hug and kiss you gave President Nixon at the time.
Yeah.
You're friends with Ronald Reagan. You play golf with Gerald Ford. You move among the powerful in our society. How do you look at yourself politically these days? In the past, I remember Sammy Davis involving himself in fundraising for the Black Panthers, working with Angela Davis. Where are you now politically, and where do you see the country politically?
I see the country politically very, very shook up, very quiet, almost ominously quiet in terms of the black community. Because the black community, a lot of people, not myself, I'm happy to say, a lot of people think, well, everything's cool, you know. I know different because I have the good fortune of talking to the leadership, those who get the front pages, and those who are working within various communities. Because those ties that I made in the late 50s through the 60s or 70s and to the day remain. My involvement with civil rights continues. All of the attention now is on South Africa in terms of the apartheid, which we know is horrible, horrendous, and it should be given attention, but it should not dilute what has to be done here. Some of the people in the current administration have put civil rights in our country, women's rights. When I say civil rights, I don't mean just black civil rights. I'm talking about disenfranchised people, disenfranchised causes. They put it on the back burner, and I don't know why. And I know Ronald Reagan. He's not a friend. I don't go to Washington. I was not a supporter. I must be honest with you and tell you that, because I don't want to mislead anyone. I supported Nixon. He did a lot of things that were very, very positive and had planned to do more during the second administration. But before all of the problems and everything, the dumbness, I should say, Gerald Ford was and remains a friend. But Reagan's administration, to me, though I see nothing that you can go, aha, so much as I see, oh. That, if I could sum it up theatrically that way. We just came back from France, and we are not well respected politically in foreign countries anymore. We don't have that. That's America. you know. We are not that respected in foreign countries. I was in Japan in January, same thing. And I get a chance because of the show business thing, and because people know I've been involved in various things, to talk, to be invited. The ambassador, who is now about to retire in France, which is one of the leading posts next to the Court of St. James in England, the ambassador said, "We are in trouble over here." And he made a statement, and everybody jumped up over here and there about, you can't say that, you know, but he just came up and said, "I'm sorry, we're in trouble, we're not dealing properly with these things. There should be more, there should be a definite statement about apartheid from America." And France made the statement, made the move, and it was the first major country to do so, and they look back at us and say, "And you're going to tell us how to run?" You know. So it really is a mixture of things. For myself, my involvement remains the same. I'm committed to my fellow man in trying to make it a better place for us. And you can only do so much.
But you've taken some knocks from the black community, too.
Oh, yes. When I hugged Nixon, man, but the brothers should do that. Don't you understand me? They should. They've been robbed. Do you understand what I'm saying, Pat? Look at every black child should look at a Mr. T or a Sammy Davis Jr. or a Michael Jackson and constantly look at him like this and go, "Yeah, I like you, but what are you going to do? Where are you? And is it phony?" And we should be put in that spot so that we never forget. We should never, like a Jew should never forget about the Holocaust. We should never take it for granted, our blackness. I know I don't. I learned that. I don't no longer press people to say, "Hey, I don't want to be a professional black." No, but I'm never going to forget it. And I'm never going to let the fact that I live in a presidential suite at the Sheraton make me forget that there's some brothers who ain't got nothing to eat. And if I can do anything without a lot of flag waving, man, and front running to make sure that that's taken care of as much as I can, I'm going to do it.
We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more with Sammy Davis Jr. in a moment. Sam, you go out and do, I understand, about 30 benefits a year.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you make your money? I mean, you're working for free most of the time.
No, it seems that way sometimes. I think my accountants think that too. No, most of the stuff that I do, the basic bread and butter dates are the ones that are in Nevada, state of Nevada, and Jersey. I work for Harrah's, and I work both the Marina and Trump in Atlantic City. Las Vegas, I work at Caesar's Palace and the Desert Inn. And up in Reno, I work for Harrah's, and in Lake Tahoe.
So those are the dates that enable you then to be able to come here for a week and do the GHO, if you really will.
Yes.
Tell me about your GHO involvement. When you first talked to the PGA, I'm going to say it was a fashionable thing to have an entertainer attach himself to a golf tournament. Was that part of it?
Yes, but I would like to think, and I've gotten the feeling in past years that it was more than just the fashionable thing to do, because there hadn't been any black celebrity ever connected with the PGA in any way. They had just started to break down the rule. The old days, and Charlie Sifford and Lee Elder were now firmly entrenched, and also at that time they were still trying to get a black into the Masters, you know, in Augusta. But
right.
All of that started to happen, and I must say the PGA said, "Let us think about it," because it was brought to them without my knowing about it. What about Sammy? Now, in those days, as you've already said earlier, I was not, you know, Father knows best. You know, I was not exactly Fred McMurray, you know. My three sons, boy, Leave It to Beaver and all that jazz. And that was the period, but I was the swinger, so they didn't, they took a chance.
They weren't worried about the blackness, they were worried about the lifestyle.
Right. That's what they were worried about. And as well they should have been. I'm not going to lie, because I didn't know from day to day which thing I was going to be into. And, you know, I'd walk into a thing dressed in the 60s garb, you know. Hey, peace and love, man, you know. And that's all I cared about, wear my beads. And and performing. It started to happen, and they said, well, we'll give him the smallest tournament we can give him, which was at that time
Right.
the Greater Hartford Open. It had the smallest purse. It had everything. And if he works there, then maybe we'll move him on to something else. That was the real story. What happened was that it started to cook, and it started to go. Then it got to a
But
point.
you were still just stopping in, if I may say
Yes.
so, because I've been here through all of those.
Absolutely.
You were flying in, flying out. Your wife presents the check one year.
Yeah.
Somebody says, "Where's Sammy?" We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Tough years.
Tough years, because my head wasn't where it should have been. Or maybe it was. Maybe it was exactly where it should have been, so that I can be where I am now. That's the way I've got to look at it. Because now I care so much about it, and it's so genuine. And it's not just this year. I think it's a thing that's been ongoing for the last 3-4 years. I'd say 4 years for sure. And it's just built and built. The last 2 years at Wethersfield was, I think, the click. Something happened. And then my lifestyle started to change. Then all of the other things, and I think everything added a layer to it. Then I wanted to get involved in it, and I wanted to know about it, and I wasn't just dogging it anymore, and I wanted to come in. And then when I knew about Cromwell, I said, boy, you better put your act together and take it on the road, you know. So I cannot tell you what it means to me, no. And I mean that. It is so genuine. And the people, everybody doing it, to walk out in front of the old courthouse the other day at the kickoff, there's the mayor, and there's the same orchestra leader, and now with sober eye, to look at these people and say, hey man, everybody's here, and to look at the crowd, and there isn't one face that's looking at you like this. Everybody's smiling and saying, hey Sam, welcome
They're
back.
also saying Sam took off his dark glasses. It's great to see him.
Oh, maybe so.
That was a very important thing.
Yes, I think so too.
When we look ahead, last year we had better than 200,000 people out for the tournament. This year we won't know until later on today. This is the final day. We should have a huge crowd out there today. We won't know what those numbers are like. How do you look ahead to next year? How do you top the celebrity show you had this year? I said on the air you had 4 of the greatest lungs in the world out there, you and Liza Minnelli.
Well, I can only tell you that we take it 1 year at a time, like I've taken other things 1 day at a time. But I think the most important thing is to have the spirit of the people of the Tri-States. If we got that, the Greater Hartford Open will succeed with or without Sammy Davis Jr. I don't want it.
Oh, no, I don't want to hear that hint. I'm not going to raise that hint here.
No, I'm not saying that now with BDDD. Please know that. I'm just saying the roll is started now, and I've seen that happen. I want to stay here as long as the people want me and the JCs want me and the PGA wants me to stay here. I will be here because I'm committed to it. I've gotten used to it now. These are the good times. We've already had the bad times. They're back there. How do we top this year's show? I don't know. People said, how are you going to top Sinatra coming in? You know, that was, and we got it with the help of a lot of people. I don't know about next year, but I'm going to know about it in about 6 months when it starts to come about here to me, and you start to look at it. Then you start to pull it, because you can't get commitments from the friends too early, because if you ask them, then you know, most of the guys and gals that I know are working.
We'll make the arrangements. Are you having a good time, yes or no?
Yes.
That's great. Thank you, Sammy Davis Jr., for joining us today for this special conversation.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you very much.
I'm eating fancy chow and drinking fancy wine. I'd like those stumble bums to see for a fact the kind of top drawer, first rate chums I attract. All I can say is wow, look where I am tonight. I landed pow right in a pot of jam, and what a setup! Holy cow, they'll never believe me if my friends could see me now. If they could see me now, my little dusty group traipsing round this $1 million chicken coop. I'd hear those thrift shop cats say, brother, get him draped on a bedspread made from 3 kinds of skin. All I can say is, wow, wait till the riff and rap sees just exactly how